Investors ask me all the time, how do I know where to buy property, investment property? How do I know who to work with if I decide on that market? You know, if you look at all of the financial magazines like Forbes and Money Magazine and the Wall Street Journal, and you start to look at the top 10 lists that they have out there, there's so many top 10 lists that get put out, everything from best place to invest to best place for cash flow properties, best place for appreciation. Over and over again, every month, there's all sorts of best of lists. And what you start to notice if you're trying to just rely on those types of lists or literature is that oftentimes they're contradictory. What could be at the bottom of the Wall Street Journal's best place to invest list could be at the top of Forbes magazine best value in the country list. And because of the parameters that they use to set those lists, they're contradictory. So that's not something that you can really rely on. And so I like to tell people that there's a few things that you really want to look for, both in a market where you're looking to invest, and then the team or the system who you're going to utilize in that market to buy cash flow properties, to buy an investment property. And when you're looking at markets, one of the things that we like to talk about is the 1% rule. And the 1% rule basically has to do with monthly rent as it correlates to purchase price. And generally, if you look at markets like California, for example, in order to get $1,000 a month rent in California, you need to spend upwards of $150,000 in most places. And as you get closer to the beach, you could even have to spend $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 just to get that $1,000 a month in rent. It's that way for the most part on the West Coast, on the East Coast, the Northwest, the Northeast, and then all through the Sun Belt. About the only place that we've seen that you can get close to the 1% rule tends to be in the Midwest. You can get $1,000 a month rent for usually less than $100,000 a month. And if you think about it, when you're looking at rental income and the return on your investment, what that means is that in the Midwest, you're going to find the best cash flow for the dollar spent. At that point then, you really have to start looking at things like unemployment, population growth, how the city or county or state has managed their money. Those types of indicators really help you narrow that down. And there's a few cities in the Midwest, like Indianapolis, that are really strong across the board for all of those metrics. And is one of the reasons why we see so many investors, not only on a national level, but all over the world, flocking to central Indiana to buy cash flow properties. Because it's really unique from the standpoint of rental income, the 1% rule, but it's also really unique in terms of the strength of the economy, unemployment, the affordability of the housing, and some of the landlord-friendly legislation that's in place. Now, after identifying a market, how do you know who you should be working with? Because if you start calling around, or if you do a Google search on property management or construction or leasing, you're going to get lists of people in that local market who would be happy to take your money. Now, just because they're willing to take your money doesn't mean they're going to return value. So how do you know? Well, there's really kind of three things that we think you should focus on, and that I think you should focus on when you're trying to figure out who to use to help you buy investment properties. You need to know how many deals they've done, or how many deals they've been involved with. It's something specific you want to ask them. Not only do you want to know how many deals they've managed, but you want to know how many deals they own and have owned. I wouldn't feel comfortable working with a property management company that the principals in that company didn't own a significant number of rental properties themselves. The next thing you want to look for is scale. And by scale, I mean, how big is the operation? How many contractors do they have working for them? How many leasing agents do they have working with them? How much staff members do they have actually managing the properties? What kind of systems do they use to handle all those? And in any market all over the country, there's hundreds of mom and pop shops that manage less than 50 properties. one thing that I've seen across the country is that when those operations get up above 50, they tend to implode unless they have really strong systems. And so while I see a lot of people drawn to those types of operations because they feel like they're going to get cheaper pricing or maybe more personalized attention, as soon as that company gets to a certain size, everything tends to come crashing down. And so if you're looking to invest your hard-earned dollars in a market, you want to work with a system that has scale and that has size. And the third thing is market knowledge. You want to make sure that the team that you're working with to help with your investment properties is a team that has experience in the neighborhoods, that they know the neighborhood street by street, that they can tell you the difference in rent between a 4-bedroom, 2-bath house with a garage on this street and a 2-bedroom, 2-bath house with no garage on the next street, because there are differences. You want them to know what the historical districts are and where the working class begins and the ghetto ends, because those are all going to be things that really drive the rental rates, the vacancy rates, and are really going to make an impact on what kind of investing results you have. So to summarize, be cognizant of where you invest by focusing on finding a good market, finding a market that has 1% rule, and then when you are looking to find a team to work within that market, think about those three things: the number of deals they've done, the scale of the company, and the market knowledge that they have. And if you focus on those things, you're going to have a much higher probability of being successful.